Story is an often misunderstood aspect of fighting games, treated poorly by the community who play it and an afterthought to the people who make it. While most fighting game stories are globe-trotting anime adventures or poorly thought out attractions for casuals, fighting game lore is a fascinating thing to some and an embarrassment to others. I happen to fall into both categories, so join me as I regale you with some of the many stories told to us from fighting games. Our story begins in Japan, 20 years before the first World Warrior tournament. After being orphaned at a young age, the young boy known only as Ryu is adopted by Goken, a practitioner of the Ansatsuken fighting style passed down to him by his master Gotetsu. Adept at his own modified version of the fighting style, Goken begins training Ryu in the art of fighting from an early age, seeing great potential in the young boy. At the same time in America, the half-Japanese, half-American young boy known as Ken Masters lives a life of luxury thanks to the fortunes gained by his father, a rich hotel tycoon. At around the age of 12, a neglected Ken begins to act out in order to get his parents' attention, dyeing his normally black hair blonde and frequently misbehaving and getting into trouble. Concerned about his child becoming a spoiled brat and undeservedly gaining access to the family's company and wealth, Ken's father sends Ken to Japan in order to train with Goken, who is an old friend of the family. For Ryu, who had only ever known Goken and the myriad of potential students he had turned away for wanting to use Ansatsuken for impure intentions, the arrival of Ken is a welcome one, as he now has a sparring partner and potential friend his own age. Ken, however, is initially reluctant to accept Goken's teachings, but eventually begins to understand and respect his master, while becoming fast friends with Ryu as well as his chief rival. Together, the two boys continue their training under Goken, becoming stronger both as fighters as well as friends. The years pass by, and the two young boys soon become two young men, with Ryu 23 years old and Ken 22. Goken decides that he has taught the two all he can and that he considers them to have grown to be fine fighters. Content with their master's teachings, the two accept his choice to end their training and decide to go their separate ways as warriors. On the last day of their training, Ryu and Ken spar for what could be their final time as Goken's students. The two's skills are insanely close, but Ryu is the one who manages to take the first victory. After their match, Ken asks Ryu which of them he thinks will be the most famous martial artist first. Ryu is unsure of who to pick, but Ken leaves him to ponder over it as he makes his way back to the United States, wanting to return home for the first time in 10 years. Ryu speaks with Goken one last time before leaving his dojo, having come to see the man who took him in as a father figure. Goken tells Ryu that he is ready to travel the world in order to test and hone his fighting ability against the best fighters in the world. Ryu, having taken Goken's words to heart, sets his sight on Thailand and the man who resides there, Sagat, known as the King of Muay Thai. However, Ryu knows that an unknown fighter like him won't be able to challenge someone as well known as Sagat, but with his heart set on his goal, Ryu still leaves Goken's dojo and sets out into the world. Upon leaving his master's dojo and entering the normal world for the first time in years, Ryu soon hears about a fighting tournament being hosted by none other than Sagat himself. Known as the World Warrior Tournament, fighters are required to beat 9 other competitors before earning the right to take on Sagat himself. Overjoyed at the opportunity before him, Ryu sets out to face his first 2 opponents, both currently located in Japan. The first of the 9 competitors that Ryu finds is an ex-Kempo instructor named Retsu who was excommunicated for using forbidden moves in street fights. Ryu and Retsu face off in battle, but Ryu is easily able to defeat him. Following their battle, Retsu recognizes Ryu's fighting style as belonging to Goken, an old friend of his. The experience of losing to Ryu humbles Retsu, and he wishes Ryu good luck on the rest of his journey. The next fighter Ryu encounters is Geki, a claw-wielding ninja. Despite his unfair advantage, Geki is soon defeated by Ryu and vanishes before Ryu has the chance to so much as speak to him. Disappointed by his opponent's cowardly ninjutsu tactics, Ryu discovers that his next opponents are in the United States and leaves Japan behind for the first time in his life to face them. Meanwhile, Ken makes his way through several American tournaments, handily defeating any opposition that comes his way. After another victory in an underground promotion, Ken is soon informed of the United States martial arts tournament that will soon be taking place. Ken shows a great deal of interest in the tournament, but becomes even more invested when he hears of the current US martial arts tournament champion, an Air Force captain known as Charlie Nash, who is apparently undefeated. Interested in beating Nash and winning the competition, Ken makes his way to the tournament. At the same time, Ryu arrives in America and is soon challenged by his next opponent, the kickboxer Joe. Ryu makes short work of Joe and leaves for his next fight against the boxer Mike, who Ryu also easily defeats. Ryu then makes his way to China where he faces the Drunken Fist practitioner Lee. Despite Lee's exceptional skill, Ryu also manages to defeat him. Not long after, Ryu then encounters his next opponent, the legendary assassin Gen. Gen, considered one of the legends of martial arts, gives Ryu his closest match to date, but somehow the young underdog is able to defeat him, something few fighters have ever been capable of. Gen is stunned by his loss, but shows no ill will towards Ryu and lets him leave alive. Ryu then continues on in the tournament and journeys to England, where he faces the British bouncer Birdie and the Bojutsu expert Eagle. Both are tough competitors, but Ryu uses his Ansatsuken skills to overcome both challenges and defeats them. Back in America, Ken makes his way through the US martial arts tournament, but is disheartened to see that Charlie Nash has not entered this year's competition. Let down by the lack of a real challenge, Ken finishes up at the tournament and claims an easy victory. As he leaves frustrated, Ken meets a young woman who compliments him on his win, but asks Ken if he fights for money, fame or attention. Ken tells the girl that he simply fights in order to face a man that he must defeat, and that until he does, he won't stop. The girl says that she wouldn't want to be this fighter and introduces herself as Eliza as the two leave the venue together. Now left with one more fighter to face before reaching Sagat, Ryu finally journeys to Thailand where he's met by Adon, another practitioner of Muay Thai and Sagat's own pupil, considered by many to be his top disciple. Adon, a cold and vicious fighter, proves to be a strong fight for Ryu, but his hot-headedness and short temper allows Ryu to gain the upper hand and defeat him. Adon is livid at his defeat, but knows that Ryu will be soundly defeated by his master and Ryu's next and final opponent, Sagat. Ryu makes his way to the finals of the competition where he faces the king of Muay Thai himself. Sagat stands an imposing figure over Ryu, but the plucky young fighter shows no signs of backing down against his foe as the two clash in a legendary battle. Despite his earlier achievements, Sagat is an insanely strong opponent for Ryu and almost defeats him with ease. Ryu stays strong and does his best to overpower Sagat's heavy attacks, managing to land his own blows against the king. An arrogant and prideful Sagat decides to ease up on Ryu, thinking him beat. Ryu, however, soon finds himself overcome with a powerful urge deep within him and quickly strikes Sagat with a powerful Shoryuken that cuts him deeply, leaving Sagat with a vicious scar across his chest. The Shoryuken sends Sagat flying and upon his landing renders him fully unconscious, to the shock of the world. As Ryu stands over his defeated opponent, his victory in the First World Warrior tournament leaves him feeling strangely empty. As Sagat comes to and recovers himself, he vows to Ryu that their battle is not over and that he will die by his hand. Ryu ignores Sagat and leaves, deciding to meditate on the true ways of being a warrior while on his return to share his feelings with his master Goken. Sometime after his embarrassing defeat at the hands of Ryu, Sagat secludes himself from the world and attempts to analyze Ryu's mindset and what he truly wanted from their fight. Unable to accept Ryu's victory as it is, Sagat plans to face Ryu again, but he is soon interrupted by a mysterious jet that lands behind him. Three men approach Sagat from the jet and offer him not only the opportunity to regain the fear he held as the king of Muay Thai, but also acquire the power needed to gain his revenge against Ryu.
We await your return, warrior.